Good morning. I call on the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition to grace us with prayers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations, for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may establish among us. Especially we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Parliament, the Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of the Cabinet, ex officio members, members of Parliament, the Chief Justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high offices. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us, and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us, and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Proceedings are now resumed.
Administration of oaths or affirmations?
None.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of messages and announcements.
I have a short statement. Today marks a special day here in the Parliament Management Commission, and I wanted to take a moment to recognize Ms. Zina Merinchin on her birthday. Ms. Zina, I'd just like to draw your attention to all of the staff of the Parliament that have gathered upstairs in the gallery just to honor you this morning. Ms. Zina stands in a category next to none, and it's noteworthy that she has served as the last clerk of the Legislative Assembly and head of the department for the Legislative Department, and is now the first clerk of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands and chief officer of the Parliament Management Commission. Just wanted to touch briefly on her background, as many in the public may not know, but Ms. Zina actually started her career as a police officer. She was a detective, and then the clerk of court, practiced as an attorney at law in the private sector, and then she missed public service so much that she returned approximately 13 years ago as at the post of Clerk of Legislative Assembly. So Ms. Zina, we are fortunate and appreciative to have you as our clerk and chief officer, especially with the knowledge and experience that you have amassed over the years. And today we just wanted to acknowledge you on your birthday and thank you for all of your sacrifices that you've made for keeping the functioning of Parliament together. Especially me as a new speaker, I want to say thank you for your assistance over the last few weeks. With that, I will close by just letting members know that when we do break, we will have a little birthday cake in the kitchen for Ms. Zina. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Presentation of petitions?
None?
Presentation of papers and of reports? Report of the Standing Business Committee, first meeting of the 2022-23 session of the Cayman Islands Parliament, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Chairman of the Standing Business Committee.
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House this report of the Standing Business Committee for the first meeting of the 22 to 23 session of the Cayman Islands Parliament.
Does the Honourable Premier wish to speak thereto?
With your permission. Yeah. Madam Speaker, thank you. I think the report speaks for itself, and I appreciate the cooperation and collaboration of all members. Thank you.
Annual report for Cayman Airways Limited for the 2022 financial year and for the 2021 financial year, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Transport.
The Honourable Minister for Tourism and Transport.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report for Cayman Airways Limited for 2020 financial year.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Law 2018 revision, I place before this Honourable House the audited financial statements of Cayman Airways Limited for the year ended the 31st of December 2020. Madam Speaker, during the first fiscal year, the airlines transported some 118,000 passengers on 4,876 flights. Of this amount, over 38,800 passengers, or almost a third of the total, were transported domestically within the Cayman Islands. During the period, the airline also transported over 1,940 tons of cargo. The airline entered in 2020 with 2 of its MAX fleets grounded, a continuation of the groundbreaking that first occurred in March 2019. That groundbreaking would be in effect for the entire year. Sorry, Madam Speaker. That grounding would be in effect for the entire year, with the MAX fleet grounded, and to ensure that its fleet of 3 737-300s was able to cover the scheduled flights. Each of the aircrafts were scheduled for various intervals of under-budgeted heavy maintenance from February through to June 2020. On March the 22nd, 2020, as a precaution against the globally expanding SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus COVID-19, the Cayman Islands government closed its international borders. For several weeks, there was no international passenger travel. By April, the airline began to operate limited international repatriation flights. The border closure resulted in very little passenger volume, and the existing aircraft was able to accommodate despite the grounded MAX fleet. On September 28, 2020, some 18 months later than originally expected, the airlines retired the oldest 737-300 Air MAX VPKY. This retirement had originally been planned for March 2019, but was delayed due to the MAX grounding. However, the cost to keep the aircraft in service beyond September was impractical, and the aircraft was removed from the fleet. The airline's 2020 financials show the net loss of $464,000, $552,000 after interest and depreciation for the year. The original budget had called for a net loss of 7.1 CI million. This CI 6.6 million variation was primarily due to the reclassification of the 6.35 million of equity injection to the output payment. The airline's ability to reduce expenses based on fuel, aircraft services, and so forth is a corresponding ratio to the reduction in revenue, then offset by the new funding from Cabinet and compensation for from the manufacturer for the MAX grounding meant that the airline was able to cope with the international border closure. Additionally, in early 2020, the Cayman Islands government agreed to provide CAL with new additional funding of $4.99 million for the unbudgeted heavy maintenance of the 737-300 aircrafts and to accommodate any needed subservice as a result of the grounded MAX aircrafts. Annually, the company renews its property, plant, and equipment for impairment losses whenever events or changes in circumstances indicate that the carrying amount may not be recoverable, or when impairments indicators are present. As at 31st of December 2020, indicators of an impairment were apparent in relation to the hulled fleet, and the impairment amounting to CI $1.3 million arose. Our continued strategic use of Cayman Airways to enable easy and affordable access to the Cayman Islands has contributed greatly to the country's tourism success over the years, Madam Speaker. During 2020, however, the country's need changed from one of tourism and stimulating the economy to one of maintaining connections, transporting cargo, and providing repatriation services. Here, Cayman Airways was once again proved its worth as we were able to maintain ties with the outside world, to receive cargo supplies, and to ensure our people had access to needed off-island services such as medical treatment. Madam Speaker, the financial statements I present have been audited by the Auditor General in accordance with subsection 29(2) of the Public Management and Finance Law 2013 revision. An unqualified opinion has been issued on the 31st December 2020 financials with an emphasis of matter for the company's reliance on financial support from the Cayman Islands government. The Auditor General states that the statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of Cayman Airways Limited and its subsidiaries as of the 31st of December 2020, and its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the international financial reporting standards. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the board and the management of Cayman Airways Limited for their efforts in producing these audited financial statements, and the Office of the Auditor General for auditing them. I now invite members of this Honourable House and the public to review the report in detail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Annual Report 2021, Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board, to be laid on the table by the Minister of Tourism and Transport.
The Honourable Minister for Tourism and Transport. The Honourable Minister for Tourism and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I do apologize. In respect to the order paper, I didn't realize that we called for both the financial year reports for 2020 and 2021. And therefore, in my closing remarks, speaking on the reports, I only spoke to 2020. With your indulgence, I would like the opportunity to speak to the second report for 2021 and just add a few remarks in respect to that.
Does the Minister, oh, you did say you wish to speak. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In accordance with Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Law 2020 revision, I place before the Honourable House the audited financial statements for Cayman Airways Limited for the year ended 31st of December 2021. Madam Speaker, during the first fiscal year, the airlines transported some 139 passengers on 5,925 flights. Of this amount, over 52,000 passengers and over one-third of the total was transported domestically within the Cayman Islands. During the period of the airlines also transported 2,120 tons of cargo. Madam Speaker, I crave your indulgence. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In February 2021, the Boeing 737-8 MAX aircrafts were cleared by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands, and Cayman Airways returned the aircrafts to service. In March 2021, Cayman Airways took delivery of its third Boeing 737-8 MAX. For much of that year, international travel was restricted, and the nation's borders remained closed to international visitors. During this time, Cayman Airways provided strong domestic connectivity and repatriation flights to several other countries. In September 2021, the borders of the Cayman Islands were once again reopened to vaccinated international visitors. Cayman Airways quickly ramped up its international service offerings to ensure that the seat capacity to the Cayman Islands matched the demand. In doing so, service was relaunched to several gateways, including Tampa, New York, and Havana, while existing service to Miami, Kingston, and La Ceiba was expanded. During 2020, CI 1.538 million in input payments had been transferred to the 2021 budget year and reallocated into the 2020 budget year, along with some 5.34 million in equity investments, a total transfer of 6.88 million in Cayman Islands government funding. During the mid of 2021, therefore, to address the 2020 transfer and restore the funding, CI 7 million was approved by Parliament as a supplemental appropriation. The entire amount of 7 million was classified as an output payment. The airline's 2021 financials show a net loss of 4.216 million, which equates to $5,019,000 US dollars. After interest and depreciation for the year, the original budget was called for a net loss of CI 5.7 million. The airline's ability to reduce expenses such as fuel and aircraft services in a corresponding ratio to the reduction in revenue, then offset by the new funding from Cabinet, meant that the airline was able to cope with the financial impact of the international border closure. Annually, the company reviews its property, plant, and equipment for impairment losses whenever events or changes in circumstances indicate that the carrying amount may not be recoverable, and when impairments indicators are present. As at the 31st of December 2021, no indicators of impairment were apparent in respect to the fixed assets of the company. Our continued strategic use of Cayman Airways during the period of our border closure, followed by our ability to quickly react to changes in the relaxation of the COVID-19 restrictions, means that we were able to ensure access to and from the Cayman Islands was provided as needed. Madam Speaker, the financial statements I present have been audited by the Auditor General in accordance with Section 29(2) of the Public Management and Finance Law 2013 revision. An unqualified opinion has been issued on the 31st of December 2020 financials with the emphasis of matter for the company's reliance on financial support from the Cayman Islands government. The Auditor General states that the statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Cayman Airways Limited and as its subsidiary as of the 31st of December 2021, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the international financial reporting standards. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the board and management of Cayman Airways for their efforts in producing these audited financials and the Auditor General's team. I now invite members to take a look at the report in detail.
Annual Report 2021, Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Transport.
The Honourable Minister for Tourism and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I lay before this Honourable House the annual report for 2021 for the Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you. In accordance with Section 52(5) of the Public Management and Finance Law 2020 revision, I am pleased today to place before this Honourable House the annual report and audited financial statements of the Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board for the fiscal year 2021. Madam Speaker, the Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board is a statutory authority established under the Tourism Attraction Board Law 1996, Law 17 of 1996, on the 25th of November 1996. The primary function of the Tourism Attraction Board is the general and financial management of the government-owned tourism attractions in accordance with the aforementioned law and the Cabinet directives. Those are Pedro St. James, Queen Elizabeth Park II, the Hell Geological Site, the Cayman Craft Market. The operations of the authority are regulated by the government of the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, the 2021 audited financial statements show that the total income for the year ended 31st of December 2021 was $2,809,614, while total expenditures were $2,597,309. This resulted in a net surplus of $212,305. The authority had current assets of $2,004,614 and non-current assets of $9,638,238. Total assets equal to $11,642,852 at the 31st of December 2021. The current liabilities were $380,896, and there were no non-current liabilities. Total liabilities, therefore, equaled to $380,896. Total equity being contributed capital and retained earnings equal to $11,261,956. Total liabilities and equity amounted to $11,642,852. Madam Speaker, the audited financial statements of the Tourism Attraction Board includes the Auditor General's opinion. The entity received an unqualified opinion for the year 2021. The Auditor General found that the financial statements of the authority present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the Tourism Attraction Board and its entities as of the 31st of December 2021, and its financial performance and its statement of cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the public to visit the Children's Garden at the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park. It's truly, truly a family-friendly facility for all of your family to enjoy. So please, on behalf of the entity, encourage persons to go and visit yourself. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the board and management of the Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board for their efforts in producing the audited financial statements, and for the Office of the Auditor General for auditing them. I invite the members of this Honourable House and the public to review the reports in detail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Port Authority Cayman Islands Annual Report 2021, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Transport.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present to this Honourable House the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands Annual Report for 2021.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, I am pleased today to place before this Honourable Parliament the audited financial statements for the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands for the fiscal year 2021. Madam Speaker, the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands is a statutory body established on September the 15th, 1996 under the Port Authority Act. The authority is principally engaged in enforcement of the Port Authority law and the regulations, as well as the general maintenance and control of all ports within the Cayman Islands, as set out in the aforementioned law. Madam Speaker, members of this Honourable Parliament are aware that the authority currently operates 2 ports, one in Grand Cayman and one in Cayman Brac. The operations of the authority are regulated by the government of the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, the 2021 audited financial statements show that the total operating income for the year ended 31st of December 2021 was $22,280,219, while total operating expenditures was $20,897,508. The annual expense for the defined benefit liability, together with the net loss associated with the reliance on of land and building and the actuarial remeasurement of the defined benefit liability at December 31st, 2021, totaled to $9,672,357. This resulted in a net income of $11,055,068. The authority had current assets of $13,788,909 and non-current assets of $80,014,264. Total assets amounted to $93,803,173 as at 31st of December 2021. The current liabilities were $1,643,649, and the non-current liabilities, which presents the authority's defined benefit health care liabilities and the lease liabilities, was $51,561,000 at the 31st of December 2021. Madam Speaker, the total liabilities amounted to $53,204,986 for the same date. Total equity being contributed capital, retained earnings, and reevaluation reserves amounted to $40,598,187. Total liabilities and equity amounted to $93,803,173 for the year ended the 31st of December 2021. Madam Speaker, the audited financial statements of the authority included the Auditor General's opinion. The financial statements have been audited by the Auditor General's office, and I'm delighted to report that an unqualified audit opinion has been issued on the 31st of December 2021's financial statements. The Auditor General states that the financial statement present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands as of the 31st of December 2021, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards. Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and welcome back to the Port Authority as the Port Director, Mr. Paul Hurlston. As you know, we were in transition from not having an acting Port Director, and now we have resolved that matter. I'm sure that everyone will agree that his background and experience will add significant value to the port. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the board and the management of the Port Authority of the Cayman Islands for their hard work in producing these audited financial statements, and I invite the honourable members of this Parliament and the public to review the report in details. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
(2021) Annual Report, University College, Cayman Islands, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Education.
The Honourable Minister for Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Annual Report 2021 in respect of the University College of the Cayman Islands.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. It is self-explanatory.
Minister of International Trade, Investment, Aviation and Maritime Affairs, Cayman Islands Government, Annual Report, January to June 2021. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
The Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report of the then entitled Ministry of International Trade, Investment, Innovation and Maritime Affairs for the period of January 2021 to June 2021.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. The report is self-explanatory.
Ministry of Community Affairs, Cayman Islands Government, 2021 half-year report to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
The Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the half-year annual report in relation to the ministry then called the Ministry of Community Affairs for the period of January 2021 to June 2021.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. The report is self-explanatory.
2021 half-year report, Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2021 half-year report for the Ministry of Youth, Sport, Culture and Heritage.
Does the Minister wish to speak?
No, Madam Speaker, just to thank my staff for their hard work and diligence that they've put in. Thank you.
Freedom of Information, 2020 Annual Statistic Report, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman.
The Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Freedom of Information 2020 Annual Statistics Report.
Does the Minister wish to speak?
Just once again to thank the Ombudsman and their office for the hard work they've done with such short staff. Thank you.
Questions to Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet?
None.
Statements by Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet.
I have given leave to the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Transport to make a statement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am grateful for you allowing me this opportunity to give members of this Honourable House and the public an update on our tourism industry's performance. Madam Speaker, 2022 has been a very challenging year, full of ups and downs for all of us. But despite the scale and the depth of the disruptions caused by the pandemic, I believe a sense of renewed hope is encouragingly taking hold in our islands where tourism is concerned. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm happy to provide this summary of the industry's year-to-date results because it's important that the country knows how the second pillar of our economy is recovering. But with that being said, Madam Speaker, in order to truly understand the significance of where we are now, I should first take us back to where we were just a year ago. You may recall, Madam Speaker, that this time last year, my team and I were at the Owen Roberts International Airport, standing with flags and good old Sir Turtle on the tarmac, welcoming back airlines one after the other. JetBlue was the first US-based commercial airline to return, followed by Air Canada, WestJet, United, American, Southwest, and Delta. Madam Speaker, I remember when JetBlue landed, being asked by someone, why were we celebrating, especially since the plane wasn't even full? The question itself totally missed the point. At that time, it wasn't about how many people were on the first flight. The point was that commercial flights were returning for the first time in almost 2 years and would be bringing back tourists to our islands. And even though our borders were not even fully reopened, Madam Speaker, it was important for us to be out there because it was a pivotal moment in the industry's recovery. At that point, with travel restrictions still in place, we didn't even know for sure what the path of recovery would look like or what percentage of the pre-pandemic arrivals we would be able to claw back from the competition. And so, at the beginning of this year, I set the Department of Tourism a target to deliver at least 40% of the 2019 arrivals by the 31st of December 2022. That equated to having approximately 200,000 visitors arrive on our shores during the course of this year. In terms of revenue, I set a similar target of 40% of the tourism revenue collected in 2019 as the target to be achieved in 2022. That meant that CI $15 million had to be collected in tourism taxes and fees in order to meet that goal. 2019 was used as a benchmark for comparison because it was the last full year of travel prior to the pandemic. It was also the industry's best year in recorded history. After a slow start in 2022, which saw less than 6,000 visitors arrive in January, equating to just 14% of 2019 figures, I'm pleased to report, Madam Speaker, that stayover arrivals have consistently increased month after month. In summary, Madam Speaker, for the 10-month period of January to October of this year, we have welcomed 202,230 stayover visitors, meaning that the visitor target has already been exceeded. And there's still 2 more months of arrivals to be added to that count, which I'll speak to a little bit more later. The best performing months of this year were June, with 26,106 visitors, and July, which peaked at 32,356 visitors. The fact that these are normally slow months of summer makes these results even more significant. In terms of revenue targets of $15 million, I can confirm that tourism taxes and fees collected for the first 10 months of this year amounts to $14.5 million CI dollars, just short of the target. But as I noted earlier, we still have to add the taxes collected for November and December to that figure, Madam Speaker. I'm confident that once this is done, we will have surpassed our financial target. I should note, though, Madam Speaker, that in keeping in line with the law, tourism accommodation taxes are remitted by the 28th day of the following month, and this is why the revenue earned for the month of November from tourism taxes is not yet available. With tourism playing such an important role in our economy, the country has every reason to be happy with the industry's performance. Visitation is trending upwards, targets are being met, and the tourism industry is once again making solid contributions to the economy. But it has not always been an easy road, Madam Speaker. These impressive results did not occur by chance. These are the outcome of bold decision-making and willingness to do things differently, even taking calculated risk at some times. For example, Madam Speaker, our tourism recovery is currently being fueled by growth from the UK, from the UK and Canada, which certainly isn't typical, but it is a result of the DOT's foresight and willingness to leverage opportunities. Last year, while uncertainty prevailed in the US markets and there was no clear indication of when our own borders would fully reopen, the decision was taken to dramatically increase advertising in the UK and Canadian markets. And as a consequence, the UK is the fastest recovering market right now. BA has increased its service from 3 flights a week when we first reopened to now having 5 flights a week. And there's a strong possibility, Madam Speaker, that more will be added in the new year, signaling that one of the world's largest airlines has confidence in our tourism recovery. Arrivals from Canada has also trended upwards. For the month of October, both UK and Canada was almost at 2019 levels. The results align with broad outcome 10.2c of the government's strategic policy statement, Madam Speaker, which specifies that we should expand into secondary and emerging markets. That is precisely what we've been doing, Madam Speaker, to the extent where our secondary markets are significantly contributing to the industry's overall recovery. Aside from Canada, the Department of Tourism is placing emphasis on the Latin American markets with the view to expanding into Panama in the second quarter of the new year. Airline connectivity in general has continued to strengthen, and in the fourth quarter of this year, the number of airline seats into our destination increased by 1,253, meaning that in the fourth quarter, we had over 1,200 more airline seats than we had in 2019. This increase in capacity, even though just 1% growth, Madam Speaker, is a positive indication that our tourism industry is entering 2023 in a position of strength. Airline seat capacity is the single most important factor for achieving growth in our tourism. The more international airlines we have servicing our destination, the faster visitation will grow, Madam Speaker. This is further underscored by the return of Sun Country Airlines, which offer service from Minneapolis to the Cayman Islands starting from this Saturday, December 17th. And I invite all members to come and celebrate with us as we grow stronger and stronger. Not only have we increased the numbers of seats coming into the Cayman Islands in the fall, we have also increased the number of gateways, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you may recall that the Cayman Airways launched its service to Los Angeles, California on the 5th of November, taking advantage of the expanded range of our new Boeing MAX 8 aircrafts, thanks to the efforts of our former Honorable Tourism Minister. The LAX service opens up the air corridor to the west coast of the United States and is the first direct service to Los Angeles from any Caribbean island. In its first month of operations, the route is performing in line with expectations, despite only having a minimal advertising budget. Madam Speaker, and that's merely due to the fact of us being smart about our spending. As much as we want to give more money to the marketing, we thought we would manage our finances and take that risk. Still with Cayman Airways, Madam Speaker, for the month of October 2022, our national airlines announced that it had exceeded pre-pandemic numbers both for total passenger count and passenger revenue, setting new records in both categories for the month of October. Cayman Airways transported over 31,000 passengers in October, rising above the 30,000 mark for the first time in the airline's history in any October month. Passenger revenue was also 37% higher than October 2019. And Madam Speaker, the honorable members of the House will not have this amendment, but I have some good news, which I've provided for you, Madam Speaker. Cayman Airways also, in November, had similarly achieved new records. For the first time in November, Cayman Airways has exceeded $5 million in passenger revenues and transported over 31,600 passengers, which is the second highest passenger number for any November in the airline's history. Madam Speaker, we are doing well. Madam Speaker, the strength of our tourism recovery is welcomed news because it influences all sectors of the industry, including daily room rate charged by hotels. In October 2022, the average daily rate, or better known in the industry as the ADR, for a hotel room had increased above 2019 levels by 35%. Madam Speaker, let me repeat that. In October 2022, the average daily rate for hotel rooms had increased above the 2019 levels by 35%, confirming that visitors are currently willing to pay more to experience a vacation in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, turning our attention now to cruise tourism, which represents a significant portion of our tourism product mix. Since the return of cruise ships in March 2022, this sector has been steadily recovering. We have received 165 cruise calls between March and October 2022, carrying 509,205 cruise passengers. This represents 35% of the volume of cruise passengers recorded in 2019. The month of June was our cruise sector's highest performing month so far for this year, with close to 90,000 passengers landing on our shores. This equated to 86% of the cruise passenger arrivals we received in June of 2019. Although the passenger numbers are considerably lower than 2019, they generally fall in line with the ministry's projections and are on track to achieve the target of 40% of the 2019 numbers, Madam Speaker. When considering the cruise passenger count, we must bear in mind, though, Madam Speaker, that the numbers are being compared to the 2019 passenger arrivals, which are a full year, whereas 2022, our ports were closed for the first 3 months of the year. This means that we lost a full quarter of passenger arrivals. Madam Speaker, that's like running a 100-meter race, and everyone starts at the 75-meter mark except you, but you're expected to catch up and win the race. And I dare say, Madam Speaker, we will win this race. You may recall, Madam Speaker, that it was the government's intention to allow cruise ships to return in December of 2021. Unfortunately, the highly contagious Omicron variant of the coronavirus was discovered around the same time, which delayed the government's reopening plans by 3 months, Madam Speaker. Even so, we are still on track to achieve the 40% target. Looking ahead to 2023 and 2024, I think it's worth mentioning that both the number of cruise calls and the total count of cruise passenger arrivals are expected to still be below the 2019 passenger arrivals. This is because two of our major cruise lines, Carnival and Royal Caribbean, have confirmed that they will be reducing the number of calls from their respective ships because of our lack of berthing facility. These and other cruise lines have moved to operating the mega ship classes, and they are unwilling to tender them, particularly due to the time it would take to ferry passengers to and from the ships. To give an example of the type of shortfall anticipated, Madam Speaker, passenger count from Royal Caribbean in 2019 was 400,000. It is expected to reduce to 330,000 passengers in 2023, and further reduce to 300,000 in 2024. For Carnival, we had combined total of 327 calls from their ships and their respective cruise lines in 2019. This is expected to be reduced to 171, Madam Speaker. While that is not an accomplishment, Madam Speaker, I mention it because it reflects the will of the people of these islands, who made it very clear that they do not want a berthing facility / cruise pair. The reduction in cruise calls is a consequence of that decision, and it's a reality that we will have to live with unless the people say otherwise. But not all is lost, Madam Speaker. The ministry is seeking to make up some of the reduction in calls with lines that have similar ships and higher yielding guests, such as MSC and Holland America. The passengers from these cruise lines are more in line with the Cayman Islands' target demographic, and I'm happy to say that our meetings with the decision makers responsible for their operations and itineraries have been encouraging. So I'm hopeful that their schedules will be maintained and potentially or possibly increased in the near future. Additionally, Madam Speaker, as you may be aware, there is a high and low season for the cruise sector, just as there is for stayover arrivals. And this is particularly true in the Caribbean context. It is my intention to speak with the cruise lines in the new year to explore ways in which the seasonality can be flattened out so that we can maintain a consistent level of cruise ships year-round, or at least for more months of the year than present. Our cruise sector is supported by thousands and thousands of Caymanian workers and small businesses, and it is a vital contributor to our tourism industry. Madam Speaker, given the importance and the number of Caymanians who rely on its success, I consider this too important to play politics with. And so, Madam Speaker, I've put politics aside, and I have invited the former Minister of Tourism to join me when I engage with the cruise lines, which I believe he's willing to do. I thank him for also being willing to put politics aside and collaborate in the best interests of the people of the Cayman Islands and those who are affected by cruise tourism. The final thing I should say or mention on the subject of cruise, Madam Speaker, is that earlier this year, the Ministry of Tourism entered in an agreement with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, which enables our islands to be marketed directly to member lines, which represent over 90% of the global cruise industry. This platinum-level marketing package offers tremendous opportunities, Madam Speaker, for the Cayman Islands, and it will help us to build closer relationships with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Line Association member lines, as well as with other travel stakeholders, consumers, and the more than 25,000 travel agents. As a result of this partnership, the Cayman Islands branding, displaying a variety of tourism product offerings, will be showcased at the FCCA conferences and events, where it will be visible to thousands of persons in the industry with their movers and shakers, keeping the Cayman Islands in the forefront of their minds. Madam Speaker, another area of importance that I would like to update the members of Parliament and the public on is the opportunities that have been implemented to support the government's goal of developing highly skilled Caymanian tourism workforce. With that being said, Madam Speaker, it is my role as the Minister of Tourism. There's nothing more important to me or nothing more I'm committed to than encouraging more Caymanians to participate in the tourism industry. I'm very pleased to report to you, Madam Speaker, that under the Department of Tourism's National Tourism Training Program, hundreds of Caymanians have been given the opportunity to attend a variety of training courses, which the Ministry and the Department of Tourism have hosted in participation with the public and private sector organizations. Not only are their courses fully accredited, but they have been made available free of charge to all Caymanians who wish to launch a career or develop their skills in the tourism and hospitality industry. In the current fiscal year, the Department of Tourism has budgeted over $1 million Cayman Islands dollars to train Caymanians through international accredited certification programs, tertiary level training, and local workshops, Madam Speaker. By way of example, these training opportunities have included: 1, the Aquila Customer Service Training, which provides frontline staff, tour guides, public transport operators and drivers, and anyone connected with customers with the skills and confidence needed to deliver excellent service. This course has been offered twice so far, Madam Speaker. Secondly, the Wine School 3 accredited bartending training, which has been offered 3 times, and we're preparing for a 4th cohort. 3, Madam Speaker. The Ministry has also sponsored 12 full-time and 12 part-time scholarships with Inspire Cayman for Caymanians seeking certification in boat operations and emergency first response. The goal is to engage more Caymanians to open businesses or take up on employment as lifeguards or boat operators or in the emergency first response related jobs. 4, Madam Speaker, a total of 39 Pride training workshops and 5 webinars have been offered through the Department of Tourism. The Pride training programs focused on Caymanians' culture and heritage and were established to create a culture of service excellence within the tourism industry. 5, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Tourism also still supports the Ministry of Tourism Scholarship Program, which enables Caymanians wishing to pursue a bachelor's degree in tourism or tourism-related discipline to realize their dreams. If anyone is in doubt about the benefits of this opportunity to both individuals and this country, Madam Speaker, I need only mention that our Director of Tourism, the wonderful, the most amazing Ms. Rosa Harris, was the first recipient of this scholarship, and she now leads our Department of Tourism very, very successfully. I'm pleased to advise that the application period for 2023 scholarship program is now open to Caymanians wishing to study for a bachelor's or a master's degree in tourism-related disciplines and are invited to submit their applications. The deadline for submission is Tuesday, the 31st of January, which is just over a month away, so make sure you guys take note. I'll say that again. The deadline for submission is Tuesday, the 31st of January, 2023, and further information is available by calling the Department of Tourism on 949-0623 or visiting scholarships.ourcayman.ky. 6, Madam Speaker, in addition to the efforts of government, private sector partners have also offered training programs for Caymanians. For example, the DART Group recently held a hospitality training program in collaboration with Work, which included paid on-the-job training at 3 DART properties, namely Kimpton Seafire and Spa, the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, and the Hampton by Hilton. 8 of the 12 Caymanians who completed the program have received job offers within the DART hospitality portfolio. I am hopeful that these types of programs will inspire more Caymanians to get involved in our hospitality industry, Madam Speaker. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the DART Group for their commitment and their investment in our people. I can go on, Madam Speaker, but suffices to say that as we continue to work hard to attract visitors back to our islands, it is imperative that we also continue to upskill our people, whether they are current or future employees within the tourism sector. Providing this level of support will help to ensure that more Caymanians become qualified to work in the industry and are able to deliver exceptional tourism experiences to our visitors. Madam Speaker, as we would all know from our travels, a great vacation experience often starts with great accommodations that will live up to expectations and is safe and it is licensed. To keep the industry running efficiently behind the scenes, over 2,700 inspections were carried out within the accommodation sector in Grand Cayman, and a further 279 in the sister islands. Cayman has a reputation of offering high standards, Madam Speaker, with respect to our tourism product, and these inspections are a vital part to ensuring that those standards are maintained. Moving on now to the film industry, Madam Speaker. To date, under my ministry, the Film Commission has approved 20 productions in 2022, which includes feature films, documentaries, TV shows, and commercials. This has increased from 12 productions which were approved in 2021 in the same categories. By way of example, Madam Speaker, through the efforts of the department, we have the filming of the Top Chef Canada, provided a rare opportunity to integrate multi-on-island locations into the Canada's most popular primetime TV shows. The one-week film production generated a spend of nearly $500,000 in the Cayman Islands economy, comprised of $22,100 in tourism tax revenues for the government, $150,000 in revenue for a local hotel, and over $300,000 with a total of 23 local catering, logistics, and supplies companies, and the hiring of 27 Caymanians to assist in the production. That's just one, Madam Speaker. Second one, the German film company Planet Blue, filming a 30-minute documentary about nature and conservation in the Cayman Islands, which falls in line with the government policy. Forgive me, Madam Speaker. That's what happens when you go too fast. The German film company Blue Planet filmed a 30-minute documentary. Jeez, why is it I couldn't remember that? Documentary about nature and conservation in the Cayman Islands. The documentary will be uploaded to Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Samsung TV and aired at least 40 times across Germany's main TV networks. 3, Madam Speaker, filming of the production of BBC Planet Earth 3 took place off Little Cayman. BBC Studios filmed this Sergeant Major Fish through their courtship, mating, and egg brooding session. I won't say much more about that before it goes down the wrong road. 4, Madam Speaker, the feature films included Unit 234, starring Don Johnson, with an estimated production spend in the Cayman Islands of US $3 million. And 5, Madam Speaker, Little Mouth, starring Dennis Quaid, with a production spend on our islands of US $4 million. Madam Speaker, these are just 5 examples of 20 productions which highlights the variety and the value of productions being filmed here, and which in turn piques the interest of viewers, making them want to visit here and vacation in the Cayman Islands. For this reason, while in Los Angeles, I announced the introduction of a government rebate program to attract the entertainment industry's attention and entice even more production companies to our shores, Madam Speaker. The Department of Tourism is equally working with an internationally based consultancy firm which specialize in global screen sector to advance that objective. In addition, Madam Speaker, they'll be working with the department to, one, provide a comprehensive overview of the sites and services that are available to support the film industry here in the Cayman Islands. Second, to design a framework for more efficiently support the application process for production companies. And thirdly, to identify a list of potential careers in film and outline the employment and entrepreneurial opportunities for Caymanians in this industry, which will include identifying the areas where the government and the private sector can support Caymanians pursuing these career paths. And finally, to identify the areas where there are gaps in capacity and outline where the opportunities might exist to expand into those areas. And Madam Speaker, going off track, I just want to say that two of the specialists were here this morning and met many of the members in this Honourable House as they asked the relevant questions in more detail of the government policy in respect to the film industry. On the subject of PR and promotions, Madam Speaker, last month, 7 Mile Beach was featured on the front cover of the print edition of Travel and Leisure magazine, as well as its online publication, headlined An Art Lover's Guide to the Cayman Islands. The feature included an 8-page spread which explored our country's unique culture and heritage, local art scene, and culinary and accommodations offerings. The combined ad value for the print and online publication is over US $2 million, Madam Speaker, with a potential audience of 14.7 million online and over 962,000 in print. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to lay a copy of the November issue of Travel and Leisure magazine on the table of this Honourable House for members to review at their convenience. With time being of the essence, Madam Speaker, I highlighted only one such example. But again, Madam Speaker, there are many, many more, including the coverage of our young Caymanian golfer, Mr. Aaron Jarvis, on NBC, BBC World, the Gulf Channel, and others, ahead of his participation in the US Masters tournament and the Open in the UK, which I think we should all take this opportunity to congratulate him on his job well done. Madam Speaker, my ministry has focused heavily on rebuilding the tourism industry so that our people could return to work and provide for their families. Being closed for 18 months has made it hard. Being closed for 18 months has meant that we've had to fight hard to regain the market share and build back our numbers. This is why between September and November, I led a campaign to aggressively promote the Cayman Islands at high-profile travel and trade shows and engaged with the principal decision-makers from the world's major airlines, cruise lines, and other industry stakeholders. There was a Cayman Islands presence, Madam Speaker, at the Caribbean Infrastructure Forum in September, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association Marketplace in October, the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association Conference in October again, the World Routes Conference, which deals with all the worldly airlines, which also happened in October, the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, Madam Speaker, which also happened in October, the Caribbean Hotel Investment Conference, Operation Summit in November, better known as CHICOS. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my 2 parliamentary secretaries who accompanied me on either one or more of these appearances. Each of these events gave the Cayman Islands tremendous visibility within the highly competitive and crowded tourism arena, Madam Speaker. And I should also note, Madam Speaker, that at all of those events, other than the boat show, I took part in panel discussions to further promote our islands. In the new year, it will be necessary to revisit some of these trade shows and promotional events to maintain relationships, establish new ones with lucrative stakeholders, with lucrative stakeholders. In order to keep building visitor arrivals, my team and I plan to continually stimulate the market so that key players and potential partners and other critical stakeholders have no opportunity, Madam Speaker, to forget the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, given the considerable discussions in this Honorable House and Parliament last week, I want to turn my attention now to public transportation. I think it would be beneficial to the members of this House for me to provide a little more detail on the public transportation strategy commissioned by my ministry and what is expected to be accomplished. As has already been mentioned just a few days ago, Deloitte has been engaged to conduct an analysis of the current public bus system and to provide recommendations for transitioning to a national government-run public bus system. While that is the primary focus, the scope of works extends beyond those parameters and includes recommendations for: 1, the provision of a defined operational framework for government's consideration, and which includes a transitional roadmap with examples of best practice bus systems within the region and elsewhere. 2, Madam Speaker, an outline of the amendments that would be required to address the impact that any changes would have on current legislation. 3, Madam Speaker, a report defining how to transition the current omnibus service to a community-based service, including a transitional roadmap which will incorporate community routes and scheduling, as well as the recommended rates to ensure financial viability. And 4, a summary report detailing a phased program to convert the government bus fleet to a low or zero emissions fleet, as well as a transition plan to introduce zero emission buses into the privately owned Omni fleet. The Deloitte's report is due early in the new year, and I look forward to updating the public further once it has been reviewed by my ministry and my colleagues in caucus and cabinet. As well as revising the country's ground transportation system, Madam Speaker, I'm also in the process of updating the National Airports Master Plan. The Airport Master Plan is a document that looks at the airport's infrastructure and processes in terms of our current and future demands and maps out the things that are required in order for the airport facility to operate as efficiently as possible. It is also strongly recommended in the aviation sector that all airport master plans should be updated or renewed every 5 to 7 years. The Cayman Islands' current plan was approved by Cabinet back in 2014. Since we are well beyond the recommended time frame, KPMG and a company called Stantec has been contracted to update the plan and develop an outline business case to guide the potential next phases of improving the airports in our 3 islands. Public consultation took place in all 3 islands, and options for each airport are currently being drafted. I am advised that this process is nearing completion, and the options will be submitted for consideration by caucus and cabinet early in the new year. Madam Speaker, despite the fact that the country has only been fully reopened to tourism since the 24th of August this year, I think you will agree that the Ministry and the Department of Tourism have achieved an impressive list of accomplishments. And there are still so much more that I haven't mentioned, such as our success of hosting the first in-person CTO and IATA conference in 2 years here in the Cayman Islands, and it's the first time to be hosted in the Cayman Islands. We also engaged in partnership with Porsche, the luxury car maker, to highlight the luxury, adventure, culture, and beauty of the Cayman Islands, to Porsche owners and race enthusiasts across North America. 15 rounds of racing known as the Visit the Cayman Islands Sprint Challenge took place from May to October of 2022, and we broadcasted to over 350,000 viewers and streamed to 35,000 people. The championship was featured across the Porsche social and digital channels, reaching over 40 million followers. Let me say that again, Madam Speaker. The Porsche social and digital channels reaching over 40 million viewers. We'll be hosting the first Florida Caribbean Cruise Association Platinum Association Membership Advisory Council Conference to be held in the Cayman Islands in June of next year, which yet again brings more conference tourism. And Madam Speaker, it is also the first time that the Cayman Islands has held the chairmanship of the Caribbean Tourism Organization Council of Ministers, which we are all aware that I have been elected as the chairman, with our Director of Tourism chairing as the Regional Board of Directors. Once again, these are just a few of the many, many examples I could list, but with time being of the essence, I'll leave it there for now. Wrapping up, Madam Speaker, this is just a basic review of some of the work that has been undertaken by the Ministry and the Department of Tourism during this year. But as there are a lot more of achievements and initiatives that I have not mentioned, I plan to update the country in more detail in the first quarter of next year. My intention at this point is to merely provide a snapshot of where we are now, to provide assurances that our tourism recovery strategies are working, Madam Speaker, and the industry is regaining strength. So, Madam Speaker, while we have not yet returned to 100% normalcy, we are well on our way, and we have much reason to be optimistic. I have led the charge to bring us back to the point where we are able to have a viable industry that is making a decent contribution to the economy of this country. People have gone back to work. Visitation across several months is climbing back to 90% of where they were in our best pre-pandemic year. Air arrivals are increasing. Air capacity is growing. Traveler confidence is returning. More Caymanians are becoming qualified to enter the industry, and we will continue to work hard to drive growth from the markets that deliver the most positive impact, Madam Speaker. Although there will surely be challenges ahead, my team and I are working flat out and around the clock to get the industry back to where it was and beyond. Not only back to where it was, Madam Speaker, we want to go further than that. Are we there yet? No, Madam Speaker. But we're moving in the right direction. And the tourism industry is putting money back into the economy. We have come a long way in a short few months since being fully reopened, Madam Speaker. And if there's anything that I can give this country for Christmas, it is the promise of a vibrant, stable, and successful tourism industry filled with hope for the future. Madam Speaker, you would have heard me speak earlier about the results from January to October. Well, Madam Speaker, here comes some more good news. I'm happy to report that the November arrivals are in, Madam Speaker, and they show that year-to-date arrivals from January to November stand at 236,348 stayover passengers, which equates to 53% of the tourism, the 2019 numbers of arrivals. The 40% year-end target that I set of 200,000 visitors have already been exceeded by over 36,000 people. And that doesn't even include the December arrivals. November was the best performing month in 2022, registering at 34,118 visitors. Visitor arrivals in October and November were at 91% and 89% of the same period in 2019, respectively, showing vast improvements from January, when visitor arrivals was just at 14% of the 2019 numbers. In fact, for the last quarter of this year, air arrivals have been running at close to 90% average. Madam Speaker, in respect to cruise, there were 206 cruise ship calls with 614,959 passengers between March and November of 2022. Passenger arrivals peaked in November with 105,754 passengers. Year-to-date cruise passenger arrivals represent 38%, just 2% less than the projections for 2019 air arrivals. And Madam Speaker, the December numbers are just weeks away and are surely to take us over the 40% threshold. Before I end on this very positive note, Madam Speaker, the message I would like to leave our people with is one of confidence and positivity. Our tourism results clearly demonstrate that confidence in our destination is rebounding, both from travelers and industry partners who are increasing their operations in our islands. For decades, tourism has been a significant part of our nation's identity. Tourism is our past, our present, and definitely it's going to be our future. As we head into 2023, it's time for us to once again dream big, Madam Speaker, where tourism is concerned. We have the will, we have the way, and we must have the passion to make it bigger, brighter, and bolder than we ever done before. I have the confidence that 2023 will not just be a good year for tourism, but it will be a great year. And I'm committed to doing everything possible to make that prediction a reality, Madam Speaker. With that said, I would like to express sincere and heartfelt thanks to my team at the Ministry and Department of Tourism, because without the commitment and dedication of those men and women, coupled with the efforts of the staff in our overseas offices, our tourism industry would not be doing as well as it is today. Madam Speaker, I would like to also take this opportunity to thank the members of this House and the public for their kind words in respect to my recent award as the Caribbean Tourism Minister for the year of 2023. Madam Speaker, this award was primarily due to the team that I lead. Madam Speaker, I know that every minister says that they have the best staff, and I'm always happy to hear that. But the team that I'm privileged to lead in my ministry and departments are not only hardworking and dedicated, they are not only focused and committed, they are exceptional, Madam Speaker. And that's why I was in a position to be considered for this prestigious award, and I graciously accept on their behalf. No matter what it is that I asked them to do, they delivered and go beyond by several hundred extra miles. And so I would like to thank each and every one of them for their tireless efforts. I would like to also thank the industry partners, the hoteliers, the restaurant owners, the water sports operators, the retailers, the dive masters, the taxi drivers, the artisans, and all the workers at our attractions, and everyone who works in or supports the tourism industry. I know that they have gone through tough times and have weathered this incredibly difficult storm, but I want them to know that the sun is starting to shine again and things are improving, Madam Speaker. I also wish to recognize the civil servants, board members, and private citizens who serve in the various boards that fall under my ministry, and thank them for giving up all their time for the benefit of our people. And finally, Madam Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to thank my colleagues in the PAC administration. Every time I came to caucus with my vision for tourism, they have supported me, particularly the Deputy Premier, who understood the vision from the very beginning and has always been willing to find the finances necessary to accomplish the goal. Madam Speaker, as a matter of fact, they all, each and every one of the members have supported me, and I would like to thank them for their trust and their belief they have shown in me to lead one of the most important pillars of this country's economy. Good Madam Speaker, I haven't forgotten you. Before you became Speaker, you were one of the biggest supporters of the tourism sector and its benefits to the good people of West Bay Central, and I promise you to continue to support them in respect to this industry. And with that being said, Madam Speaker, I thank you for allowing me to give this country this update on our tourism industry's performance. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Personal explanations,
None.
obituary and other ceremonial speeches.
I have given leave to the elected member for Georgetown West to make a ceremonial speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before I get in to say what I was going to say, I just want to, on behalf of the opposition, to also wish Madam Clerk, Mrs. Zena Marion Chin, a happy birthday. And that was a very special moment with her staff on the balcony. That was goosebumps. So we're going to have some more goosebumps right now. Madam Speaker, I thank you for allowing me to make this brief statement today to celebrate a young Caymanian. I have followed the swimming career of Jordan Crooks, as well as his sister Gillian, for quite a few years, and who have both represented Caymanian swimming at many international events. They are now both representing the Cayman Islands on the world stage at the 16th FINA World Swimming Championships 2022 in Melbourne, Australia. Jordan is making waves and making Cayman proud at the University of Tennessee. Earlier today, Madam Speaker, Jordan beat the world record holder and former champion to take the top time at the semifinals and to be in pole position for the final tomorrow. In doing so, he held off a late charge from record holder Australian Kyle Chalmers in the second semifinal. In the final, Jordan is seeded first and will be in lane 4 alongside Kyle Chalmers, who will be in lane 3. I do not doubt that Jordan will likely be world champion. My heart warmed to hear the glowing terms that the sportscaster spoke about him when he was introduced. From being a fisherman / free diver in the Cayman Islands to an SEC champion as a freshman, Jordan Crook's journey through life has always been one consistent theme: water. And so, Madam Speaker, on behalf of the opposition and all my colleagues, and indeed the Cayman sporting family, I congratulate Jordan and Gillian on their accomplishments to date and wish them both well in the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Raising a matter of privileges.
None. Members, before we go into government business, I think it's probably a good time for us to break for lunch. So we will suspend until 2 p.m.